Hey there friends, welcome back to another Legally Armed America video. I'm of course Paul Glasgow here, the one and only truth pimp dealing you a vulgar display of logic and reason on a daily basis. So let's get this straight. 3 innocent lives are gone at an Austin Target, killed by a nutbag who's a repeat offender with a documented history of mental illness. But here's the catch. Technically, it is a rampage shooting. It is a rampage killing. It's a rampage attack. But the wackos on the far left can't claim that.
Police say the suspect, 32-year-old Ethan Nineker, randomly attacked the victims before going on a violent crime spree across Austin.
And just a few hours ago, we received an update on what authorities know so far. KVU's Malia Masamoto is outside the Target on Research Boulevard in North Austin to run through those new details that police released to us today. Malia.
Well, Mark and Quita, it all started here at the Target parking lot just a little after 2 p.m. when police say the suspect shot 3 people before stealing a car and driving away. But officers caught up with the suspect 13 miles away, all the way in South Austin. Well, APD said Nineker shot a Target employee, Hector Martinez Machuca, in the parking lot while he was collecting carts. Then officers say he shot Adam Chow and 4-year-old granddaughter as they sat in their Toyota 4Runner. And Chow's wife was injured, they say, while Nineker stole their SUV. Now, from there, police say Nineker tried to steal a water truck but couldn't start it, then got back in the 4Runner and crashed it on Mopac and Anderson Lane. Police say he left his gun in that vehicle. After that, he carjacked another woman and took off in her Volkswagen, and that's how he got all the way down to South Austin. APD received reports that he had thrown a brick through an acquaintance's window and was running around naked on La Casa Drive. Officers say they tased him and took him into custody. APD Chief Lisa Davis said APD had mental health interactions with Nineker in the past.
I'm thinking about the past incidents that we had with him on mental health runs, and where is the follow-up there? And for someone to have the capacity to take the life of 3 innocent people and a 4-year-old child. As we move forward and are looking more into this, it will be interesting to kind of peel that back and see where those failures took place.
Well, investigators say Nineker got the gun from a family member, but they aren't sure if the family will face charges for allowing him to have that weapon. There's also been a lot of questions if there's connections between the victims, but police tell us there was no reason that Nineker chose him. They were completely random. Reporting live in North Austin, Malia Masamoto, KVU News.
The killer in this case was certainly a loser, but he was definitely not a nobody with a spotless record according to law enforcement. His rap sheet was practically screaming for a serious intervention. It had assaults, domestic violence charges, protective order violations, mental health holds. It had the works. Yet time after time, local officials and the DA, more on that in a second, gave him the warm slap on the wrist treatment. Don't do it again. Don't be a bad boy. We're gonna let you go this time, but don't do it again. That's proper policing, right? Felonies and misdemeanors, yeah, most of his were dismissed. Jail time, sure. But apparently jail doors in Austin are more like revolving doors. In this case, crime was just a kind of like a part-time hobby for him. Now here's where the farce really takes center stage. This guy technically, by law, wasn't able to get a firearm, but he was able to get his hands on a handgun, quote, through a family member. Federal law states that violent offenders and those with certain mental health backgrounds cannot own or possess firearms, but laws aren't force fields. And the DA and Austin's officials apparently think paperwork alone can keep society safe. They administered no follow-up, no enforcement, just a lot of hoping for the best and risk dumped onto everyone else in the community. This is something that I talk about all the time, and you guys do too. Everyone in the Second Amendment community constantly talks about this. Laws are not self-enforcing. They require a certain amount of compliance. When you put a law out there, you don't just hope for the best. You hope for the best person to read that law and comply with it if it's a law worth complying, if you know what I mean. In this case, this guy disregarded all the laws, obviously murdering 3 people. I guess Austin's DA Garza and local leaders must believe magically reciting charges will keep dangerous criminals off of the street. Either that or they're simply allergic to doing their jobs. How does a man flagged by courts and police end up roaming the streets unmonitored, able to acquire a handgun that he is legally prohibited from carrying? I'll tell you why. Because dismissed charges do absolutely nothing to deter future crime when you keep letting somebody get off like this. You slap them on the wrist and beg, basically, plead with them not to do this again. All you've done is made it nice for them in the future because they're thinking, I'm not going to get anything to happen to me again, especially with the guy with a rap sheet like this. Almost seems purposely done, doesn't it? This particular DA in this area, Garza, is a known Soros-funded DA. How many times do we hear this? It seems like every time there's some kind of issue, either reporting crime, either reducing crime, not enforcing the law, letting people off, pleading down, it's always a Soros-funded DA. It's almost like George Soros is trying to destroy the country via the legal system. He's doing a pretty good job of it through all these DAs that he funnels millions of dollars into their re-election campaigns. In this case, it's more of the same. This was a Forbes article that he cited that had old data from 2021 that showed that Austin was one of the 15 top safest cities in the country. This was his way of protecting his legacy, which was abysmal over there, right? An updated list by Forbes also, so it wasn't from some competing organization, showed that Austin ain't on the list. But this guy just last year cited these 2021 stats to make it look like Austin was safe. Well, it might have been safer before he came into office back in 2021, but it's certainly not now. This guy is letting people off. This guy is being sued by various people. This guy is a dyed-in-the-wool George Soros DA. And the people of Austin, you vote for this. You asked for this. It's really hard for me to feel sorry for somebody who not only elects a DA like this, but you re-elect the guy. You see his track record. You buy his lies using old data simply to put him right back in office again. That's why your streets are not safe. That's why you're not on the top 15 list of safest cities in the country. Keep this up, you'll be on the top 15 list of the most dangerous cities in the country. Maybe next time Garza can just send criminals like this maybe a polite email or offer them free yoga classes if they simply obey the law and don't break the rules. Another quick point that I want to make, when you have a DA like this, you may be in Texas. Look, the vast majority of Texans do not claim Austin, and that's also starting to apply to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Certainly not Austin. Austin has been a liberal enclave for a long time. I talk about this all the time, having protection if you carry a firearm. Yes, Texas is a constitutional carry state as of more recently, right? You can carry a firearm. You can still carry. This is a freedom that you have in the state of Texas, right? If you live in the Austin area, I'm not trying to make this into a commercial, but my friends over at Attorneys on Retainer, you should consider getting a membership. Yes, you can brag about your constitutional carry state all you want. If you choose to live in Austin and you have to either draw your firearm, I don't even care if you have to fire it or not, if you have to draw it to thwart a crime like this, or if you actually have to use it, or even a knife for that matter, you have a Soros-funded DA that will go soft on people that will recommit, but will go hard on you because you are, in his eyes, the enemy. You're a conservative gun owner. You're going to be looked at as somebody that's causing a problem in the area, somebody that pushes back, somebody that will vote against a DA like Garza. If you don't have attorneys on retainer, you're going to be in a bind because you need some of the best attorneys in the nation fighting for you. So if you choose to live in Austin, you might want to take a look at Attorneys on Retainer. Again, they are a partner of mine. I'll tell you right now, if you go to their website, attorneysonretainer.us, use my code FTATF, and you will get money off. Because if you live in Austin, you're going to need that discount. You're going to need that coverage because Attorneys on Retainer will certainly fight for you against a DA like Garza who would throw the book at you, but let a person like this run free with a rap sheet a mile long. Because again, they are continuing on their effort of disrupting the community where you are correcting the efforts in the community that he won't correct by putting these people in jail for however long they need to. Again, attorneysonretainer.us, use my code FTATF. You will need them if you live in areas like this. Again, you can brag about your constitutional care all you want. You're not living in a constitutional carry county when you live in that Austin area, right? Speaking of that, gun rights supporters, pay attention and get ready to push back, because the problem is not law-abiding citizens or the Second Amendment in this case. Guns didn't leap off the store shelf and commit murder. This criminal did. This criminal, ignored by local authorities, committed this heinous crime, murdering 3 people. When public officials habitually disregard repeat offenders and let mental health cases fall through the cracks, they're practically handing criminals a license to destroy lives, like in this case. Want safer streets? Start by holding these DAs like Garza in office accountable for protecting us, not protecting the crime stats or their re-election chances. Stop blaming millions of responsible gun owners for the failures of you and a few other careless bureaucrats. Now, you want to know where this story takes a quick left turn, and by the way, prayers for the families who, this was, as you saw in the report, this was a 4-year-old who was shot in the back seat. The driver of this car that this killer stopped first in the parking lot, and I want to back up for a quick second. This was a buggy collector, a shopping cart collector, who was out picking up shopping carts to bring back into the store, who was murdered first. This killer didn't know this person. There was no relationship there whatsoever, no beef with that person. Just went over there and indiscriminately shot him. Then, in order to try to steal a vehicle, went and shot, I think it was Chow was the grandparent's name, shot Chow, murdered Chow in the front seat driving that vehicle, and for no reason, because there certainly was not a threat from a 4-year-old sitting in the back seat. Turned the gun on the 4-year-old and shot and killed that 4-year-old just because. Just to do it. Again, you saw the rap sheet. That's who pulled the trigger on this, right? So this person right there in the parking lot in a matter of minutes. No 911 call would have saved you. Matter of minutes, murdered 3 people with a handgun. And by the way, it was a handgun. They're not saying what kind of handgun, but it was a handgun in this instance. The irony I speak of is the very fact that guess who can't call this a mass shooting? Gun Violence Archive or anybody else on the left. If you've noticed, it hasn't received a ton of airplay, which it should have, because this is the kind of shooting we should be worried about. A random, indiscriminate rampage attack. Because no one was sought out because of who they were. They were sought out because they had a beating heart. They were breathing. That's why they were sought out. The guy picking up the buggies in the parking lot, Chow and the granddaughter, this guy didn't know them. He didn't care about them one way or the other. It could have been me or you driving that car, picking those buggies up. Same thing would have happened. Probably a little bit different outcome because most of us carry, but nevertheless, you understand what I'm saying. We would have been targeted for breathing, not for who we were. This was a rampage attack. This was a, quote, mass shooting. But the left can't call it that. Notice the headlines are all saying a shooting. Because they did this to themselves, the media and everyone else. They have latched on to this stupid definition of a, quote, mass shooting of 4 or more people shot or killed, that now they can't claim this one. This actually, I talk about this in my book, Damn Liars, this is the kind of shooting you should worry about. Because they take these hundreds of gang-related shootings that happen with people slinging dope at 2 a.m. down to the basketball courts or on a street corner or at a house party where people get drunk or high and shoot at each other. If there's 3 or more people shot, boom, mass shooting. They flood these numbers like that, but then they get one like this because this is the kind they are trying to imply. They are trying to imply that when you show hundreds of mass shootings, that this is the kind that it is. Because this is the kind we should worry about. This is the kind where we should have our head on a swivel. Because trust me, when they are normally shooting at each other at 2 a.m. in the morning down by the tennis courts, I'm in bed asleep. So are you. So are our families. There's no threat. These hundreds of, quote, mass shootings that they claim, we're not at risk. Not unless you're going to buy dope at 2 a.m. in Washington, D.C. No, you're not at risk. But this was a somewhat middle-class neighborhood in Austin. This is not where your gang shootings or the bulk of those, quote, mass shootings take place. They don't happen here. That's why these are scary to us, because we don't know when they're going to pop off. There's no way to predict that. I can predict tonight in Washington, D.C., well, maybe not D.C. because of what Trump's doing now, but I promise you tonight in Chicago, somebody's getting shot. See how I predicted that? Watch tomorrow. Somebody will have gotten shot because it's predictable. It's the location and it's the type of people who are doing this. But people, I guarantee you, nobody gets shot at that same target tomorrow. That was a random shooting. But the left can't claim it. They are beating themselves up right now because only 3 people were shot. Not that magical number of 4, so they can't make this a mass shooting. When, and in actuality, this should be one that they can claim because this was a textbook mass shooting, a random shooting, a rampage shooting. It was textbook. Everything about it. Mental patient, guarantee you he was on some kind of psychotropic drugs or SSRIs. Guaranteed. Law enforcement hasn't released that information yet, but with all the mental health counseling and things that he's had, there's no way this dude flew under the radar and didn't actually take the medication. Guarantee you there's some black box warnings, meds that this guy took that made him even more manic and suicidal and homicidal. Guaranteed. So this is the kind of shooting that does worry me and my family because I don't know if I'm going to be in these middle class areas where there's not rampant crime. I don't know. This guy just went to an area where there's not a high amount of crime there. So again, the irony is, as bad as the left wants to claim this as a mass shooting, they have taken the position of 4 or more being shot, so they can't claim this. And they want to. They want to stand on a hilltop and scream mass shooting about this. They can't do it. They did this to themselves in this case. Main question I'd like to leave you guys with is, why can a violent, mentally unstable man walk out of jail over and over again, but responsible citizens like you and I will get blamed every single time a tragedy strikes? This guy was let out over and over and over again. Who are they going to blame? Gun owners. In fact, the gun owner in this case was a family member. They haven't disclosed whether or not the family gave him the gun or if the guy stole the gun within the home or whichever. That hasn't been disclosed yet. But it doesn't matter because they're not going to blame this guy. In fact, they're putting his face and his name all over the news, glorifying and celebrating this guy, likely exactly what he wanted. But they're going to demonize who? The person at home who legally bought that gun. Now they're going to start calling for safe storage laws in Texas and Austin and everywhere else in that community. That's what they're going to do. They're going to blame the person who didn't pull the trigger, and they're going to let the guy off, at least figuratively, who actually pulled the trigger. And I mean, it goes perfectly in line with as many times they've let him off up to now for all the crimes he's already committed. I mean, if ignoring violent offenders like in this case is the real epidemic, because it does appear that it is, why are we letting the people who let them off the hook? Why aren't we putting more pressure on them? I mean, I understand, you can vote them out or whatever. Shouldn't be voting out. There should be people who are protesting at the steps of the Austin DA's office, whichever, maybe the courthouse, protesting why the DA and why this police department, which is led by a DEI hire, by the way, as you saw in the video. Here we go again with DEI making people die. But why are we letting them off the hook? We shouldn't be saying, oh, I'm going to vote them out. No, we should be doing something now, bringing attention to this. Make no mistake, this shooting is not the fault of good, honest, respectable gun owners like you and I. This is a stark indictment of a criminal justice system with holes so big in it you could drive dump trucks through it. Every time a politician says never again, ask them why it keeps happening. Ask them why bureaucrats keep failing to act. Folks, the Second Amendment is there to protect our rights to self-defense in this exact kind of case, whenever local officials and elected officials won't do their job. But folks who rely on law enforcement to protect them, you have to understand that when they fail, there has to be a backup. At least be the backup, right? And in this case, law enforcement, local officials failed spectacularly.